I never thought I'd be the guy who finds himself in this kind of situation. You know, the sort of thing you read about or see in movies. But here we are, and I guess it's time to lay it all out. My name is Mike, and I was married to Laura for 6 years. In the grand scheme of things, those years were filled with laughter, ups and downs, and all the usual relationship stuff. But lately, things felt off. It all started with her telling me that I didn't need to walk her to her car anymore. It seemed innocent enough at first, a simple change in routine. Laura always used to complain that I was too overprotective, but I didn't think much of it. I mean, she works late hours at a marketing firm and the parking lot can get pretty empty. So I respected her wishes, even if it felt like a shift in our dynamic. I began to notice little things, her phone habits, for instance. She'd become more secretive, always closing her messages when I walked in the room, and I caught her texting late at night more than once. Just work stuff, she'd say with a dismissive wave. I wanted to believe her, I really did. But in the back of my mind, that nagging feeling started to grow. Then one night everything changed. I had just gotten off work early and I figured I'd surprise her with dinner. I drove to the restaurant where she often met her colleagues. I thought I'd catch her on the way out, maybe whisk her away for a spontaneous night. But as I pulled into the parking lot, I saw her, leaning against her car, laughing. But she wasn't alone. There was a guy with her. He was tall, athletic, and way too comfortable standing next to her. I could see the way she looked at him, a sparkle in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. I froze, my heart racing as I watched them. I wanted to convince myself that it was just a friendly chat. Maybe they were discussing work, or maybe he was just a colleague she liked. But then he leaned in closer, and she giggled in a way I hadn't heard in ages. It cut through me like a knife. I felt like I was watching a scene from a movie, one where the character realizes their entire world is crumbling right in front of them. I wanted to scream, to yell at them, but I was rooted to the spot. I just watched as they exchanged a lingering look, and then he pulled her in for a quick hug. I thought I would throw up. As they parted, I caught the last glimpse of Laura's smile, and that was my breaking point. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. I parked the car, my thoughts a chaotic storm of confusion, anger, and betrayal. How could she do this to me? I felt the walls closing in as I sat there, trying to catch my breath. I needed to confront her, but I wasn't sure how. When she finally got home, I tried to act normal, but deep down, I was fuming. I didn't want to accuse her right away. I wanted to give her a chance to tell me the truth. But the moment she walked through the door, I saw it in her eyes. There was a flicker of something, guilt, fear, or maybe it was just a reflection of my own panic. "Hey, how was your day?" she asked, her voice light and cheerful, completely oblivious to what was about to unfold. I could feel the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I knew I had to address it now before it consumed me whole. "Laura, we need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. She looked at me, her expression shifting slightly, and there it was, that slight tightening of her jaw. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. "I saw you today, with that guy." Her reaction was instantaneous. I could see her defenses go up, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What are you talking about? I was with a colleague, you know how our team is." I wanted to scream that I didn't buy it, that I wasn't stupid, but I held back, wanting to hear her out. "Laura, you were laughing and hugging him. It looked intimate." She opened her mouth to protest, her face shifting from surprise to anger. "You're being ridiculous, Mike. It's not what you think." That's when I realized that her lies were going to be as thick as the walls we had built together. I could see the cracks forming, and I knew I had to dig deeper to uncover the truth. This was just the beginning, and I was determined to find out how deep this betrayal went. So, as I stood there facing her, I felt the anger boiling inside me, but I also felt the sadness creeping in. The thought of losing the love I thought we had was almost unbearable. But I had to know. I had to find out how far she had gone. The confrontation did not go as I expected. Laura was quick on her feet, throwing out excuses like confetti at a parade. I could see her scrambling for a believable response, her mind racing just like mine. "Mike, it was just a friendly hug. You're being paranoid," she insisted, crossing her arms defensively, a habit of hers when she felt threatened. But I wasn't going to let her dismiss my feelings so easily. I pressed on, trying to keep my tone steady. "A friendly hug, really? Because it didn't look that way to me." I took a step closer, narrowing my eyes. Tell me the truth. Laura, is there something going on with you and him? For a moment she hesitated, her gaze flicking to the side as if searching for the right words. No, of course not. You're overreacting. You know how work can get. We were just celebrating a project. You can't honestly think I would cheat on you. The desperation in her voice was palpable, and it only fueled my anger further. I shook my head, feeling a mix of frustration and anguish. It doesn't matter if you think I'm overreacting. I saw what I saw. You can't just brush it off. I was teetering on the edge of breaking down, and I hated that she had that power over me. I could tell she felt the tension in the air. Mike, please calm down. You're acting like I'm some sort of villain. You have to trust me. I love you. Her voice softened, and suddenly she was reaching out, trying to take my hand like everything was fine. But I pulled away, needing to maintain my distance. Do you love me? I shot back, feeling almost cruel, but I was desperate for a glimpse of honesty. Because it sure doesn't feel that way right now. You're hiding something, and I won't stand for it. Her cheeks flushed, and for the first time I saw a flicker of doubt cross her face. You're being unreasonable. I can't believe you're accusing me like this. She spat, her anger rising. Anger is such a complex emotion. It can mask fear, sadness, and everything in between. I could feel my heart racing as she shouted at me, the tension filling the room until it was almost suffocating. Accusing you. You're the one who's hiding something. I shot back, the words tumbling out of my mouth before I could think them through. I could see her backtracking, the facade of confidence cracking. After a long, tense silence, she finally sighed, looking defeated. Fine, if you want the truth, you'll get it. What does that mean? I asked, my heart pounding in anticipation of what was about to come. Look, she started, her voice dropping to a whisper as if she feared someone might overhear. Maybe I've been spending a little too much time with him, but it's nothing. It's just flirting. It didn't mean anything. That hit me like a truck. Flirting, so she was admitting to something but trying to downplay it. Flirting, Laura, that's still crossing a line. You're married to me. How can you say it's nothing? She looked away, the guilt written all over her face. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought it was harmless, but her voice trailed off, and I could see her emotions swirling in her eyes, fear, regret, but mostly guilt. I saw you laughing and hugging him. You can't just brush that off as harmless. I could feel the weight of betrayal bearing down on me, and it was suffocating. Okay, maybe I was a little too friendly, but it didn't mean anything. Just give me a chance to explain. How could she still say that? This wasn't just a minor slip. It was a complete disregard for our marriage. Explain what? How you chose to betray my trust. How you decided that it was okay to flirt with another man. I could feel the fire of anger burning, but it was mixed with sorrow and disbelief. I needed to collect my thoughts, to breathe through the pain that was welling up inside me. I started pacing the living room, the weight of her betrayal heavy in the air. The trust we'd built over the years felt like it was crumbling with every word exchanged. Mike, please, she said, her voice softening again. It was just a mistake. I never meant for it to go this far. I promise I'll end it. I'll cut him off. Just don't give up on us. Her words were hollow, and I could see through the cracks forming in her facade. How could I trust her again? How could I believe anything she said when she had already lied to me? I don't know if I can just forget this, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Laura stepped closer, her eyes pleading. I'll do anything. Just tell me what you need me to do. In that moment, I realized I had to make a decision. I could either attempt to salvage our marriage or walk away from the woman I once thought I knew, but could I trust her again? I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I needed to figure out what my next move would be. As the night wore on, I became consumed by thoughts of betrayal, love, and the possibility of revenge. I had to think carefully about how to move forward, and if Laura would be part of that future. The anger boiled within me, but so did the sadness. I was scared of losing everything, but more than that, I was terrified of what Laura's actions meant for us. The road ahead was murky, and I could feel uncertainty creeping in. The days that followed our confrontation were a whirlwind of emotions, like being caught in a storm without an umbrella. Laura tried to show remorse, but I could see the cracks in her sincerity. She would send me texts during the day, thinking of you, and can't wait for dinner tonight. But each message felt like a band-aid on a gaping wound. I couldn't shake the image of her with that guy, Jake, out of my mind. She assured me she'd cut off all communication with him, claiming he was just a work friend. But the doubt lingered in my gut like a lingering ache. I started noticing changes in her behavior. She was more attentive. But it felt forced, like she was trying to compensate for something she knew she had wronged. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching TV, I couldn't help but observe the way her fingers twitched nervously against her knee. "Laura, are you really done with him?" I asked, my voice steady, but underneath was a storm of anxiety. She turned to me, her eyes wide. "Of course, Mike, I told you. It was a mistake. I love you. I want to work on us." I wanted to believe her, but the memories of her laughter with Jake echoed in the back of my mind, taunting me. I felt the anger simmering beneath the surface. It was a potent mix of betrayal and sadness. I was tired of feeling like the victim, of watching my marriage unravel before me. That night I couldn't sleep. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized I needed to take control of the situation. I needed to know the extent of her betrayal. What if she hadn't truly cut ties? What if Jake was still in the picture, lurking in the shadows? I devised a plan. I would gather evidence. I felt a tinge of guilt for what I was about to do, but I justified it by reminding myself that I had a right to know the truth. I decided to follow her the next day, to see if she would really stick to her word. The next morning, I pretended to go to work as usual. I kissed her goodbye and watched as she drove away. I waited a few minutes before slipping into my car and following her. My heart raced as I navigated through traffic, trying to keep a safe distance. She drove to a cafe I had never heard of before. It was tucked away in a quiet part of town, and something about it felt clandestine. I parked down the street and watched as she stepped out of her car, looking around nervously like a spy on a mission. She walked inside and I parked further away, trying to remain inconspicuous. My heart pounded as I mentally prepared myself for what I might discover. I pulled out my phone and kept it ready, just in case. After a few moments of waiting, I saw Jake enter the cafe. My stomach dropped. They exchanged pleasantries, and I could see Laura's face light up in a way that sent an icy chill through me. This wasn't just a friendly chat, it felt like a reunion. I felt sick as I watched them sit at a table, leaning in closer as they spoke. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could see the way she laughed, the way her eyes sparkled. It was the same way she used to look at me. A hot wave of anger washed over me, and I knew I couldn't just sit here and watch. I had to confront her, but a part of me wanted to gather more evidence first. I moved closer, positioning myself near the entrance where I could still keep an eye on them. I watched as they shared a dessert, and the way they leaned in together felt intimate. It was a betrayal that cut deeper than any knife. Just as I was about to snap a picture, something unexpected happened. A woman walked into the cafe, one I recognized instantly. It was Jessica, one of Laura's close friends. My heart raced. Why was she here? I watched as Jessica approached their table, a look of confusion on her face. "Laura, what are you doing here?" she asked, clearly surprised. Laura's face paled, and for a moment I wished I could hear their conversation. I could see her scrambling for an explanation, and that's when the anger morphed into something else entirely: revenge. If Jessica knew, I could use this to my advantage. I had to find out what she would say. My blood boiled as I imagined how Laura would squirm under the weight of her lies. I needed to confront both of them, but I also wanted to make sure I had proof first. After a few more tense moments, I saw Laura's demeanor change. She was no longer relaxed, she looked panicked. "It's nothing, Jess, just catching up." She stammered, but the way she said it made it clear that she was lying. Jessica narrowed her eyes, and I could see her suspicion growing. "You're not cheating on Mike, are you?" she asked, her voice low but firm. Laura's reaction was immediate. She looked around frantically, as if searching for an escape. I could tell she was caught off guard. That was my chance. I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture of the three of them together at the table. Just then I felt a rush of adrenaline. I couldn't wait any longer. I stormed into the cafe, my heart pounding, ready to expose the truth. I was done being the victim. As I stepped inside, I caught Laura's eye, and I could see the panic register on her face. "Mike, what are you doing here?" she blurted out, her voice trembling. I took a deep breath, my heart racing. "I came to see the truth for myself, and it looks like I found it." Jessica turned to look at me, her expression shifting from confusion to realization. Oh my God, Mike. The tension in the air was palpable, and I could see Laura's world begin to crumble as her lies unraveled in front of us. I felt a rush of power, and for the first time since I discovered her betrayal, I knew I was taking charge of my life. As I faced Laura and Jake, part of me wanted to scream, to unleash the fury I felt inside. But I also knew I needed to keep my composure. This was a moment of reckoning, and I was ready to expose the truth for all it's worth. The tension in the cafe was thick enough to cut with a knife. I could feel all eyes on us, the other patrons, the barista, and especially Laura. I took a step forward, forcing myself to maintain eye contact with her, even as my heart raced with a mix of anger and betrayal. "So this is how you spend your time when I'm at work?" I asked, my voice low but steady. Laura's face fell, and I could see fragments of her bravado dissipating. "Mike, please, let's just talk about this," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "No, Laura, you don't get to talk your way out of this one," I shot back, feeling more resolute with each passing moment. I turned to Jake, who was still sitting at the table looking bewildered. "And you, what kind of man knows a guy is married yet goes after his wife?" He opened his mouth to respond, but I wasn't interested in hearing what he had to say. "I want to hear from Laura. You can sit there and look guilty all you want, but I'm done playing nice." Laura glanced between me and Jake, her eyes widening in fear. "Mike, it's not what it looks like," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her tone. "We were just talking about work, I swear." "Talking? Is that what you call sharing a dessert and laughing like you haven't a care in the world?" I responded, my voice rising. The other customers began to cast curious glances our way. "You think I'm that stupid?" Jessica, who had been standing silently beside me, finally spoke up. "Laura, just tell him the truth. You're only digging your own grave deeper." Laura shot her a glare, and I could see the panic rising in her eyes. She was cornered, and I had no intention of letting her escape. "Tell me the truth, Laura. Are you still seeing him?" I pressed, my voice firm but not yet a shout. I deserve to know if I'm wasting my time trying to save a marriage built on lies. The silence hung in the air, and for a moment it felt like time stood still. Laura's expression shifted, and I could see the fight leaving her. "Yes, I was seeing him, but I thought it was harmless. I didn't mean to hurt you," she finally confessed, her voice breaking. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Harmless? Laura, you don't get to define what's harmless when it involves betraying your vows. You broke my trust, you broke us." Her eyes filled with tears, and I knew she was desperately trying to cling to whatever remains of our relationship. "I'm so sorry, Mike. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could keep it from you. I didn't want to lose you." I shook my head, disbelief washing over me. "You thought cheating would keep our marriage intact. That's how you show love." It was all too surreal. The cafe felt like it was closing in on me, the walls closing in around the chaos of emotions swirling in my chest. I could feel Jessica's hand on my shoulder offering silent support, but I was beyond comfort at this point. I felt lost, betrayed, and furious. Jake finally spoke up, trying to defend himself. "Look, man, it's not like that. We just—" "Shut up, you don't get a say in this. You think I care about your excuses?" I snapped, cutting him off. My eyes bore into Laura, searching for any hint of sincerity. "I can't believe you would do this to me with anyone, let alone someone I don't even know." Laura's tears flowed freely now, and she took a shaky breath. "I never wanted to hurt you. I'm so sorry. Can't we just start over?" Start over? The idea felt ludicrous. How could I possibly go back to the way things were when the very foundation of our relationship had been shattered? Start over? I scoffed, my voice dripping with disbelief. "What makes you think I could ever look at you the same way again? You threw away everything we built together." The realization hit me like a wave crashing on the shore. I had a choice to make. I could either forgive her, which seemed impossible, or I could walk away from a marriage that had morphed into something unrecognizable. "Mike, please," she sobbed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do anything. I'll go to couples therapy. I'll cut Jake out of my life for good. Just don't leave me." I looked at her, and the sight of her brokenness stirred something within me. A part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her it would be okay. But the other part, a much louder part, was screaming for justice. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "You don't get to call the shots anymore, Laura. You lost that privilege when you chose to betray me. I need to think about what I want, and right now, I don't think I want you in my life." The words felt heavy as they left my mouth, and I could see the devastation washing over her. I turned to leave the cafe, feeling the weight of her eyes on me. I needed space, clarity. As I stepped outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air, trying to shake off the confusion swirling in my mind. I was angry, yes, but I was also heartbroken. I had lost the woman who was supposed to be my partner for life. Jessica followed me outside, catching up to me. "I'm so sorry, Mike. I had no idea this was going on. Laura never mentioned anything." I ran a hand through my hair, feeling overwhelmed. "It doesn't matter. I don't know what to do. I feel like everything I knew about her was a lie. You deserve better than this, you know that, right?" she said softly, placing a comforting hand on my back. "You have to take care of yourself first." I nodded, appreciating her support, but the pain in my chest felt insurmountable. The idea of ending it with Laura was terrifying, yet the thought of staying and living with this betrayal was equally frightening. I needed to gather my thoughts, make a plan. I didn't want to act impulsively, but I also couldn't just forget what had happened. I walked away from the cafe that day with a heavy heart, but also with the knowledge that I had to reclaim my power. The road ahead was uncertain, but I knew I had to figure out what I wanted and what I would no longer stand for. I was ready to confront the reality of my situation, and I was determined to find my way through the storm of emotions, even if it meant leaving everything behind. The days following that explosive confrontation were a haze of confusion and emotional turmoil. I found myself oscillating between anger, sadness, and an overwhelming numbness that enveloped me like a thick fog. I spent hours alone at home, replaying every moment in the cafe, dissecting Laura's words, her expressions, and the way she pleaded with me. I didn't want to believe the woman I loved could betray me so easily. I attempted to process everything, but I felt lost in a whirlwind of thoughts. I knew I had to make a decision, but it was agonizing. In those days, I also did some soul-searching. I reached out to a couple of close friends trying to gain perspective. They all had their opinions, but one friend stood out. Mark had been through a similar situation a few years back, and his advice came from a place of hard-earned experience. "Mike, you know what you deserve. Don't let feelings of nostalgia cloud your judgment," he said when we met for coffee one afternoon. "Trust is essential in a relationship. Can you ever trust Laura again?" His words struck a chord. I realized that trust was the very foundation of our marriage, and it had been shattered. The image of Laura with Jake kept flashing in my mind, taunting me. I shook my head, feeling the weight of it all. "I don't know if I can ever see her the same way," I admitted. "It's like I'm looking at a stranger." Mark nodded. "That's completely normal. You're still in shock. You need to take your time and think it over, but don't stay in limbo forever. You have to choose, either move forward or let her go." Those words lingered with me, echoing in my mind. I knew I had to decide soon. I didn't want to drag this out, both for my sanity and for Laura's, so I began making a plan. I would confront her one last time, but this time with clarity. I needed to lay everything on the table to understand where we stood. It wouldn't be just about her. It would be about me reclaiming my life. One evening, as I sat in our living room, I texted Laura to meet me at a nearby park. I wanted it to be neutral ground, a place where we could talk without distractions. I arrived early, pacing beneath the trees, gathering my thoughts. When she arrived, I could see the remnants of her earlier confidence broken. She looked weary, her eyes puffy from crying, and it twisted my heart. Yet I felt a flicker of resolve. This wasn't just about her. It was about me taking control of my own life. "Mike, thank you for meeting me," she said, her voice trembling. I nodded, keeping my tone calm. "We need to talk about what happened. I need to know where you stand." She looked down, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "I've been thinking a lot, too. I messed up and I don't want to lose you. I'll do anything to make it right." "Anything?" I raised an eyebrow. "What does that even mean? Because right now it feels like you're just saying what you think I want to hear." Her eyes flashed with hurt, and I saw the frustration building in her. "No, I mean it. I love you. I've realized how much I need you in my life." That word, love, used to carry so much weight between us, but now it felt like a flimsy excuse for betrayal. "Love isn't just a word, Laura. It's trust, commitment, respect." all of which have been thrown out the window. She swallowed hard, visibly shaken. I know I messed up. I was feeling lost and I thought flirting was harmless. I was wrong, but Jake means nothing to me now, I promise. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. How can I trust that you won't go back to him? How can I believe you when you've already betrayed me? She looked up, desperation etched on her face. I'll cut him out of my life completely. I'll block him on everything. Just give me a chance. I need to prove that I can be the wife you deserve. As I stood there, I realized how I had been hoping for a neat resolution, but the truth was far more complicated. Laura, I don't even know if I want that anymore. I'm scared of being hurt again. I can't just forget what you did. Tears streamed down her face and my heart ached for her pain, but I couldn't let that cloud my judgment. I need time to think, to figure out what I want. But right now, I feel like I need space. I can't go back to the way things were. She nodded, the weight of my words sinking in. I understand. I'm so sorry, Mike. Please know that I'll always love you. I need to step away from this, I said, my voice steady but heavy with emotion. I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the park, broken and alone. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I wiped them away fiercely. I was reclaiming my life, and that was more important than any fleeting emotion. The next few days were filled with a mix of relief and sorrow. I went through the motions, spending more time with friends and trying to focus on myself. I even started picking up hobbies I had neglected, running, reading, and just enjoying my own company. But the thought of Laura lingered in the corners of my mind. I didn't want to dwell on the pain, but I knew I had to confront my emotions head-on. I had lost the love of my life, but in that loss, I was beginning to discover who I was again. I realized I couldn't make a decision until I felt grounded in myself. I needed to be okay on my own before I could even consider moving forward with Laura or without her. And while the road ahead was still uncertain, I chose to embrace the journey, whatever it might hold. That's when I started to truly feel the power of moving forward, whatever that meant. I was ready to confront the reality of my situation, and no matter what happened next, I was determined to find my way through the storm. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself gradually settling into a new rhythm. I had made the conscious decision to step away from Laura and the chaos that had enveloped our marriage. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments when memories would crash over me like waves, leaving me gasping for air, but I was learning to navigate the waters of my own life anew. I moved into a small apartment not far from our house. It was a fresh start, a clean slate where I could breathe without constantly feeling the weight of betrayal on my shoulders. I filled the space with my things, familiar items that reminded me of who I was before all this happened. It felt good to reclaim my identity. I started seeing a therapist, which was an eye-opening experience. Talking through my feelings helped me process the anger, sadness, and confusion that had been swirling in my mind. I learned that it was okay to grieve the relationship I once had with Laura while also acknowledging that I deserved better. Meanwhile, Laura reached out frequently. She sent messages, trying to explain herself, apologizing and begging for another chance. At first, I felt guilty for ignoring her, but I soon recognized that I was doing what was best for me. I needed to focus on self-care and healing rather than getting caught up in the emotional tug-of-war she was trying to create. One afternoon, I decided to meet with Mark again for coffee. He had become a solid friend through this ordeal, and I valued his perspective. As we sat in a small cafe, I shared my progress. I've started to feel like myself again, I admitted, a small smile breaking through the remnants of sadness. I'm learning that I can be happy on my own. It's freeing. Mark nodded, a proud smile on his face. That's amazing, Mike. It's all about rediscovering who you are without the weight of someone else's choices. You deserve to be happy, and it sounds like you're getting there. But even as I spoke those words, a part of me felt heavy. I was making strides, but there was still a lingering sadness for the love and life I had lost. I had to admit to myself that letting go of Laura was an act of self-preservation, not just anger. One evening, I decided to take a walk by the park where I had confronted Laura. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the trees, and I felt an unexpected sense of peace wash over me. As I walked, I reflected on everything that had happened, the betrayal, the pain, but also the growth. Then I spotted Laura sitting on a bench. She looked up as I approached, and I could see the remnants of her once vibrant smile were subdued. My heart raced, but I reminded myself that I was stronger now. "Hey," I said cautiously, stopping a few feet away. "Hey," she replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, preparing for this moment. "I've been thinking about us, about everything," I started, feeling the weight of my words. "I know I messed up, Mike. I'm so sorry for hurting you. I've been doing a lot of soul-searching myself, and I realize how much I took for granted," she said, her voice trembling. I nodded, feeling a pang of sympathy for her. "I appreciate your honesty, Laura. I truly do. But I also have to be honest with you. I don't think we can go back to what we had." Her eyes widened, and I could see her fighting back tears. "Please, Mike, I can change. I'll prove it to you. I just need another chance." I shook my head gently. "It's not about proving anything anymore. I need to focus on myself right now. I can't carry the weight of our past." She looked devastated, the reality of my words settling in. "So that's it. You're just going to walk away." I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "I need to take care of my own heart first. What we had was beautiful, but it's been tainted by betrayal. I can't pretend to be okay when I'm not." Laura nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. "I understand. I just wish things could be different." "Me too," I admitted, feeling the genuine sadness for the love we once shared. "But we can't rewrite the past. It's time for both of us to move forward." As I turned to leave, I felt a bittersweet mix of emotions: relief, sadness, and a sense of closure. I had said what I needed to say, and in doing so I had reclaimed my power once more. In the weeks that followed, I embraced my new life. I focused on my career, ventured into hobbies I had long neglected, and reconnected with friends. I found joy in small moments: a good book, a sunrise, the laughter of loved ones. I also started dating again, taking baby steps into the world of relationships. It was nerve-wracking but exhilarating. I learned to let myself be vulnerable, to trust again, and to find happiness without the shadows of my past overshadowing me. I realized that while love can break you, it can also teach you resilience. I learned to set boundaries, to recognize my worth, and to embrace the journey of healing. Through it all, I reflected on what I had learned. Life is unpredictable, and love, while beautiful, can sometimes lead us down painful paths. But I also learned that we have the power to reshape our own narratives, to carve out our own happiness, and to emerge stronger on the other side. So, as I stood at the edge of a new chapter, I knew I was ready to take on whatever came next. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape, and I was determined to make it a good one.